All right, Scott Turner's with me. Secretary, it is great to see you. Great to have you on the live show. I know we've done a nice podcast in the past. I got a lot to get to on the housing agenda, but I got to ask, because the subject last couple of weeks, nonstop woke sports. You're an NFL star, former NFL star. Isn't the whole point of sports meritocracy, hard work, trying to see the elevation of mankind and humanity? And then it's just been so degraded. It seems like one sports cycle after the next is either someone's cheating or someone's throwing a tantrum or someone thinks that sports are about LGBTs or something. Like, I don't get it. Why?
Yeah, I think it's and great to be with you, Alex. Thank you for having me again. Sports, man, there's so much about sports that really have been a blessing in my life. It teaches you discipline, it teaches you teamwork, teaches you how to overcome adversity and trial, to be humble in victory, not to quit, when you fall down. But, it's indicative of our culture now of really this entitlement spirit that goes on in our culture. And so now, even in sport, if something happens to a college athlete and he doesn't like it, they just transfer, they go to a new school. And that's something that I have been speaking out about, both publicly and privately, that we need to get back to the discipline of sport, get back to being loyal to your school, letting it take root, going through adversity and trial. Because in life, if you get mad or if you get upset at something, you don't get to just quit. You have to go through it. And so I'm a proponent of the discipline of this, the integrity of the game, getting back to that, really. And people could say it's old school, but really that's what's really been a blessing to me in my life, is what I went through playing professional sports, playing high school, college, and even Pee Wee.
So, all right, I want to change gears to the essential stuff today, which is the work you're doing in housing and urban development. You've said that liberals have exploited public housing and you're taking strides to stop it. Tell me what you mean by that. This is a quote from you in a Washington Post opinion piece. Tell me what you mean by that and the steps you're taking.
So, during the Biden administration, the immigration policies in the Biden administration were very weak. And that's how you saw tens of millions of illegals coming across our borders unchecked and unvetted. And because of that, the housing supply, there was a great strain put on our housing supply, a great strain put on the housing cost. And there's a decades-old loophole in our regulation right now called mixed status household that we're closing with our new proposed rule of qualified citizens. We will guarantee that the people that receive HUD-funded housing are American people. We will guarantee that we protect the most vulnerable in our country and serve them. And those are eligible American citizens who need housing, because what has happened before is that you have illegals, you have those that are ineligible, that have been taking HUD-funded housing where that should have been prioritized only for the American people. And so this new proposed rule that we're putting out really just closes this loophole, allows HUD to enforce the law the way that it was meant to be enforced, allows me as the Secretary of HUD to be in compliance with Section 214 of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1980, where it says the Secretary cannot provide or allow assistance to be given to those who are ineligible to receive HUD-funded housing. And so this is a big deal. And I say that because we want to protect the American people. We want to protect hard-working American taxpayer dollars and serve those whom we've been called to serve.
So your new proposal is going to require verification of citizenship or eligible immigration status through DHS's SAVE system for all applicants and tenants, regardless of age or whether or not they've been in the program previously. I like this, but give us the details here.
Yes, sir. And so you said exactly, we have a partnership with DHS that will verify that those that are receiving HUD-funded housing are indeed American citizens and eligible to receive this funding. So it's 100% guaranteed that if you are receiving HUD-funded housing, that you are a U.S. citizen or an eligible recipient, tenant to receive this funding. And, we want to do this because we have been called to be good stewards over taxpayer dollars. We've been called to serve the American people and the American people only, and it's our job to uphold the laws on the book in this great country of the United States of America. So that's what you see going on here today.
So you guys are going to engage in a big audit of nationwide housing to make sure people who are in it are eligible, trying to focus on making sure that people who are ineligible are out of those housing. One thing that you've done also, which is interesting, is you guys actually have a crime hotline. Now, I'll give out the number, 800-347-3735. So you want people to report on crime that's taking place in HUD-funded housing. Very logical. Why did we have this before, or is this new?
Absolutely. And, we think that public housing should be safe housing. And so those that live in our public housing authorities should feel safe in their own homes. They should feel safe, the protection of their children, their families, their possessions. And so we launched this HUD crime hotline, and you gave the number there, 1-800-347-3735, to report any kind of criminal activity, any kind of illegal alien activity, any kind of nefarious things going on, crime, drug trafficking, sex trafficking. And we want people to be confident that they have a confidential space and source to call in if they see these type of activities that are going on. And you mentioned the audit that we did with DHS, finding that there's 200,000 possibly ineligible people whose verification of eligibility needs to be identified. And so this is a big move, not only to keep public housing safe, but to make sure that those that are living in HUD-funded housing are indeed eligible to live there.
We get some great numbers on affordability in general coming in. Mortgage affordability is at a 4-year high after the interest rates fell in January. Housing starts 5-month high, medium rents at a 4-year low. I've been reporting on that consistently on the show. What about these numbers really speaks to you?
Well, if you think about under the president's leadership, we came in, we inherited a fiscal mess, in this country. Interest rates were high, mortgage rates was high, inflation was high, and just in, just a year's time, and you gave those numbers, and I appreciate you doing that. Mortgage affordability is up. The amount of money that people have to spend every month to maintain their household is down. Here at HUD, we helped 1 million people last year to be able to afford to buy a home, and 500,000 of those were new home buyers. And so, the numbers that you speak of are real numbers that impact real American people. And we're just now getting started. There's much work to be done. But as you can see, the president, myself, and others in this administration are very serious about prioritizing home affordability, home ownership, because the American people, that's one of the greatest steps to create wealth and generational wealth for a family is owning a home. And so we will continue to be steadfast in that here at HUD and across this administration to make sure that the American people are able to afford and buy homes going forward.
Last one for now, Secretary. The most densely populated city in the country is in New York City. We learned yesterday that the mayor is going to be raising property taxes. How does this not raise rents, mortgages, et cetera, for people?
Well, it will, and those are failed policies. And I'll give you another stat. In places like New York and California, 100% of the rental growth demand, which raises the rents, is because of those who have come here illegally. And so you see the policies that the mayor of New York is putting forth, the ideas that he's putting forth, those will be failing policies from the beginning. Rents are going to go up. You're going to see people who are going to be out of housing, not be able to afford rent. Housing costs will go up. And so that's why I'm glad under President Trump, we have common sense policies that are restoring sanity back to the housing market, be it rental or homes for sale back in our country. And we will continue to make sure we do this for our time here.
Secretary Turner, here's the main point here that I want to get to today is what you guys have identified is a real pain point where we were allocating all sorts of funds specifically for housing to families of non-citizens. And you guys are trying to not just transfer funds from non-citizens back to Americans, but to the most vulnerable Americans. Is that not right?
Yes, sir, Alex, you're exactly right. For this last year that we've been here at the helm at HUD under President Trump's leadership, we've been chipping away at this. You talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. This plays right into that. We have made it so that illegals are not able to get FHA-backed mortgages. We signed a data sharing agreement with DHS to make sure that those that are receiving HUD funds and HUD-funded housing are eligible and U.S. residents. And so now this is kind of the culmination, if you will. This is the final step to make sure that American people are prioritized, and only American people are prioritized as it pertains to receiving HUD-funded housing. And so this new proposed rule will allow us to do this, and so that American taxpayer dollars are not going to those that are here illegally, but American taxpayer dollars are going to those that are U.S. citizens. So this will be a great transfer, if you will, about $167 million to $218 million that will go directly to the most vulnerable people, American citizens, as it pertains to HUD-funded housing. Before, we were only serving 1 out of 4 eligible families in need, and now we'll be able to serve more of those families. And that's why we've been called here, to steward taxpayer dollars and to serve the most vulnerable people in this country. And so I'm happy to make this announcement today that we're fulfilling the mission that we've been called to fulfill.
So be crystal clear with me. What exactly is the new rule? And if there's anyone in the audience or related to audience members, what should they do to take advantage of the new system?
Yes, sir. So this is HUD's new proposed rule called the qualified citizens, and it closes the mixed status household loophole. And so those that are in need of HUD assistance as it pertains to housing that are eligible U.S. citizens now will be able to qualify to apply for these assistance dollars, if you will, for those families that are in most need. We have to go through the public comment period, which is a 60-day period. We will receive these comments, we'll respond to these comments, then we will set the permanent rule and set an effective date whereby this mixed status household loophole will be closed, and we'll be able to serve the American people that are most vulnerable in our country.
One thing that you guys have done is you've noted that removing illegal aliens and ineligible citizens is going to result in hundreds of millions of dollars going to Americans. It's important to quantify it, because what my fear is with all this stuff is that a Democrat gets in and then they undo it. And I think showing the public that there's a real tangible cost that to house illegal aliens, to encourage them to get on government housing, it really does affect not just those who are housed, but those who pay for it.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you have reiterated that, because we want the American people to know that we care deeply about the most vulnerable citizens in our country. And at HUD, we've been called to serve this constituency, not those that are here illegally, but we've been called to serve the American people, U.S. citizens, with taxpayer dollars. And so thank you for airing this show. Thank you for reiterating this principle and this purpose, because that's why we're here. You know, we're here for the American people, to make sure that people can receive HUD-funded housing, to take care of their families, and use this as a hand up, if you will, to change the trajectory of their family, because that's our heart here, that those that receive HUD-funded housing are able to get their families in better shape, to use this as a trampoline and not as a hammock, to change the trajectory and the future of their family for generations. So I appreciate you giving me this time.
I appreciate you giving me all this time. It's very kind of you to be here. Secretary Turner from Housing and Urban Development, again, at Secretary Turner on X, the Everything app, as well as Instagram. That's all the time we got for today. Another show. I wish we had another hour. I really do wish we had another hour. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.